Hi, welcome to BackStories. My name is Connor Ridland, and today's guest is Darryl, co-owner of Keystone Pictures. Thanks for being with us today, Darryl.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here, Connor.
So tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
Keystone Pictures is a video production company. We do rentals, we do AV live events, and now we're doing a lot of streaming. We started in 2002, which really was an outgrowth of me being a freelance videographer. I joined forces with two other camera people, and we formed an incorporated entity, Keystone Pictures. And over the years, we've built from doing reality television, corporate videos, live AV events, and now we're doing all that. A little less of the live AV events, but a lot of streaming.
So over the years, was it difficult to sort of transfer to today where everything is sort of streaming?
Well, you really try to go where the work is. You have to be a very nimble, agile company. You cannot say that all we do is X and we never do Y or Z. That would have been the end of us a long time ago. We really have found ourselves with opportunity. We rarely say no. It's like we'll figure out a way, and now we're in a space that is with the streaming, something we're extremely good at. And luckily, we were doing streaming a couple of years ago, and we saw the pitfalls. We saw some of the really exciting aspects. We saw possibility in it. We believed that streaming was the future. We just didn't realize that in March of 2020 it would be a mandate, like kicking and screaming for some, but for us it was a natural migration to that spot. And we learned a lot how to run live stream and Wirecast and a few others. And it's good we did, because it wasn't an alien space for us. And now we're just amazed what we can do with streaming.
In the past, you were doing lots of cinematography, especially with the reality TV shows. So is that where you saw yourself ending up?
Well, you always wonder what's the outcome of a business like ours. We know it's going to evolve. We go to a trade show every year. This year we didn't. That's our national trade show. It's a great opportunity to look at new technology, and you have to be willing to say, I'm willing to adopt and learn, master new technology. If you don't do that, you're back to that same model that I said earlier, where all you do is X. So we knew that we're going to be adding things. We come back from what's like an arcade game in your head of 100,000 exhibits, and you say, what are the truths? And over the years, I knew that the 4:3 image was going to become the 16:9 image. So any purchases, any equipment that we bought would be a widescreen monitor. There was a period where you hit a button, it's 4:3 or 16:9. It was, friendly in the transition period. We knew that we're leaving videotape, we're leaving analog, we're moving toward digital, we're moving toward static media onto cards and recording that way. Now we're seeing that, a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, that move the camera. Anything that we bought had to have the ability to move the camera, much more than a zoom, more than a camera person walking around, with a camera on his or her shoulder, but, using robots now, pan and tilt zoom cameras. They're all controlled from maybe anywhere in the world, moving the camera remotely. We're moving the camera on sliders that have automation to them and programmability. So I think the key thing in any aspect, if you're in the tech side of our business, is being willing to adopt new technology and, moreover, embrace it and get good at it, because it's never going to stop. It's an endless stream of new gadgets and gizmos.
Me, myself, I've always been interested in cameras, and every single year, it's like every year or two, just everything completely changes.
It does. It does.
And so on that same sort of topic, would you say that there's a sort of pyramid that you would have to climb to become a cinematographer on any sort of set, or is that something where you have to know someone?
Well, it's probably, in the best case world, a little bit of both. You have to pay your dues. For me, my inroad, I wanted to be a cinematographer. I wanted to make motion pictures. I thought about moving to Hollywood when I was 19 years old. And then, the realization of it is, what is it that I really want to do? I want to look through a viewfinder. I want to tell a story. And I was given an internship at a local news station where basically I was, helping with the teleprompter. I was putting the lottery numbers in the board every night for the Pennsylvania lottery. I was doing all those crazy fun things, but I was constantly observing, asking questions of the camera people, the editors, the technicians. And I've said, this is really cool. I don't need to go to Hollywood to tell a story and to have a camera. When I graduated from college, they called me and said, you might be a good candidate to be an apprentice. We used to have an apprenticeship, but it failed. We think you're different. They saw something in me, maybe it was just an appetite, hunger, eagerness, and willingness, that they were willing to bring me in at above minimum wage, I have to say, and give me an opportunity just to shadow the news photographers and editors. And they said, this is going to go on for about 6 months. You're just carrying a tripod and helping them, move stuff around. Like, that's fine. Happy to be here. Within 2 weeks, they had a major fire downtown, and in those days the camera people edited their own videos, so it's like 5 o'clock, we're on the air in like a half hour, and they had nobody to go cover the fire. So imagine the coach of a football team looking down the bench and seeing this guy Rode down there at the end, like, what do we got to lose? Rode, go take the news car and see if you can shoot this thing. Don't screw it up. I'm like, I can win or lose it right now. I went down, I put it on a tripod, I made a long shot of the fire, I tilted down to the fire trucks, I came back, I threw the tape in the machine. They said, we have no time to edit it, it's going to air live, just back up the tape and hit play. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is the moment. Like, I'm gonna live or die on what happens next. And after it ran, there was a round of applause in the newsroom, and I became like a little bit of a mini rock star. And after that, they said, take the news car, go shoot this. Oh, go shoot that. So in about 2 weeks, I was actually driving around the news car by myself. And I said, this is super cool. So I really was bit by the bug. And what's cool about news is that you tell your story, and at 11 o'clock at night, it's over. Who cares? Tomorrow's a brand new day. We're making another story. We might have done 3 Mile Island, which was a story back then. Capitol Hill the next day in Harrisburg. Next day it was, turkeys got avian flu, going to some farm and showing 100,000 turkeys, doing the pie baking contest, the farm show. We just did something different every day. So I always had an opportunity to do something new and fresh, tell a new story. My past wasn't as important as the moment I'm in. And that was kind of cool. And we would edit it. So, my little movies were 30 seconds long if it was a shorty, 2 minutes long if it was a big feature. And I really had the bug, and I knew I wanted to stay in Pennsylvania. I knew I wanted to stay close to family. I knew I also wanted to work in news, and I did so for, I guess it was about 11 years.
So if you were a student and you just, let's say, for example, because not everyone goes to film school, if you were just a high school student and you just graduated and you wanted to start a film, what would you say is the best way to start?
To start a film, like to make a movie?
Short film, feature, just any sort of small, I would say, small scale.
Well, small's always best. Nothing is better than a good story. You may have heard a good story told to you. You may have read a good story. Nothing is more important than a script, or at least the concept. Before a camera, a light, or a microphone, or an actor is placed on a set, you have to know how to tell a story. And the power of the close-up. The reaction, when to cut away. That whole language of filmmaking has to be understood. And you can really get that from simply stop watching movies and start studying movies. Look at why they've chosen to show a silhouette of a murder. Like, wow, that's crazy. Like, you can see that in Psycho, the shower scene. And, all these kind of things are like techniques that the masters have developed, and you can really borrow from them and tell your story without having to worry about, like, wow, we got fake blood, we have to do this, we got to do, it's like, show it as a shadow, show it as a silhouette, and you're daring for taking those chances and still telling the story. So I think small, think a great story, and then be realistic about what you can achieve. The good news is your iPhones right now can shoot a movie. The sound is okay. Just get close. Hopefully it's not a windy day. You could actually use your iPhone to capture a story. And then if you are a one-person crew, you hopefully know how to edit, and then study more films and see the editing techniques, and you really can do this with very little collaboration. As you know, television and film are huge collaborative efforts. Look at the credits. Sometimes they go on and on and on for minutes, and sometimes literally 1,000 people work on a motion picture. When you're starting out, it's going to be you as the camera person, you as the sound person. You basically wear all the hats, so basically it's a movie by you. Now you might have an actor, somebody willing to be on, but a solo effort is almost impossible, but not impossible. But having a couple kindred spirits, people on a team, maybe 2 or 3 collaborators, you're acting in one scene, but you're the cameraman in the next. You're the editor in this, but then they're the director. Those collaborations can really be great learning opportunities.
So, since you've been in this industry for a while, if you had to name three important lessons that you've learned over the years, what would those be?
Well, thanks for letting it be three, because there's not one thing that I've learned that's the all-purpose. Well, the one thing that's very important is never stop learning. Every day I learn something. I love being around young people who bring me generational differences that say, like, you can do this and you can do this. You know, I've had, you don't know how many times USB-C versus Thunderbolt versus is the same thing, but it's not. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, but I am going to learn it. I'm determined, because I'm not going to go home this week without understanding the difference of that. So being willing to learn every day, study what someone does. Even if they're doing it wrong, you at least know, I'm never going to do it that way. Or look at personalities. You know, you attract more bees with honey. That person is so nice and they're really getting what they need using techniques, adaptive techniques. So always being willing to learn is key. If you say you only do X, again, I go back to that example, you will quickly become the dinosaur. So that's number one. The other thing is never devalue your relationships. Everybody is a connection to you on set. Everyone is a collaborator. There's good and bad collaborations, but really don't burn any bridges. It is a small industry. We're not talking about, you know, an industry with tens of millions of people. We probably are less than 100,000 people that kind of do what we do. And it's good to know that I have the person in Texas. We have our crew in Florida because we've known them for 30 years. And if they aren't available, we know they know someone who is and that they're good. So value your relationships is very important. Always being willing to learn. Number two. I'd say number three is really, honestly, you have to change with technology. Technology is not, it's kind of like learning again, but look, if you were using your laptop from 10 years ago, Connor, people would be giggling at you like, seriously, that's your laptop? It can't even run Windows 10. You know, it can't even run the OS. So, you know, the technology curve, even if you're in hair and makeup, there's new techniques, there's new pieces of equipment. So you have to really embrace it.
So is there anything else that you would say to any aspiring cinematographers?
Well, you know, if there's one rule that I really like, and I try to beat it into my son's head too, is being on time is late. It sounds so cliche, but 5-10 minutes early is on time, because the weirdest things happen when you're early that are always good. You find that the director, who you're probably not going to get a chance to talk to during the day, depending on what your role is there early, chances are, because he or she is a pro, and that you've got one-on-one time with them. Like, oh, who are you? Where do you go to school? Oh, cool. You've made a relationship with somebody. Also, the veterans that are showing up are probably early. I mean, it's crazy. I've gotten to set a half hour early and there's already people there. I'm like, we're not even on the clock yet, but we're standing around talking, getting, you know, some coffee or whatever. And we're talking and we're really relaxed and we're feeling good about the day. And then when the bell rings, we're on. So I think early is key. I definitely know people in my organization that are the early birds, and I almost expect to see them. Like, I know he's going to be there when I'm there because he's that kind of guy. And that's always worth an extra stroke of professionalism in my book.
So if you're teaching students, how do you go about teaching them how to tell a story?
Well, matter of fact, we do camera clinics sometimes here at Keystone, and we have some young people come in and we do drills. And they're no different than the drills that I was giving when I was a member of the National Press Photographers. We would go to a seminar and we'd be given drills. And one of the drills was, they'll give you a piece of paper and it would say, go tell me, make a photo essay. Don't worry about audio. Don't worry about lighting. Just pictures, a compelling little sequence on some of the most mundane things. And I remember my one was parking meters. So I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma on this workshop, and I had to go out on campus and look for parking meters. And when we came back, they would nicely review your footage and they would say, you have to tell me a story about parking meters. And I remember that the first thing that I remember from the teaching earlier that day was, don't go out like a tourist. If you have the camera at eye level where the tourist would stand and you take a picture of a parking meter, you kind of failed. You have to find unique and compelling ways to show me the world through your eye, through a photographer's eye. And I shot like extreme close-ups of like insert coin. You didn't even know what insert coin, what you're putting it into. And then I got a little bit different. I went down and I looked up in the parking meter as if I were an ant's view of a parking meter. And they loved that. They said, that's really cool. It looks like a tower. Still wasn't sure it was a parking meter. And then, I just did the sound. Like they said, don't worry about sound, but I did, because that little weirdo sound when the coin goes in. I did that, and I saw a close-up of the coin, and they really liked what I had done, and it encouraged me to see the world through a different lens. If you're just seeing it the way you walk out and seeing it, that's low-hanging fruit. Anybody can do that. Go bigger than that. And in the world of unscripted, which is mostly the space that I'm in, if I'm doing reality or documentary, one of the big things I encourage is you have a viewfinder, the old school ones where you stick your one eye in and you close your other eye so you can really focus, is not to close your other eye. It's to do what I call two-eye shooting. Even if you have a DSLR in front of you, your head's on a swivel. You have your shot, you're looking around, you have your shot and you're looking around. Why do you do that? Because in unscripted, the weirdest and most wonderful things that can happen are spontaneous. They're real. You're asking people to be on camera. Most of them are not actors. So, and I know this happened many times. I would wear headphones and I'd listen to those sound recordist audio. And I would hear somebody talking about bringing in a birthday cake, or this is an example. And I'm just shooting something that has nothing to do with a birthday cake, but I would two-eye shooting. I'd say, oh, Mom's bringing in a birthday cake. She's over my right shoulder. And he doesn't even know it. He's still working on his car. And like, okay, I would zoom out, I'd go over, and producers would think that like, how'd you know that? Are you clairvoyant? I said, no, because I'm using Intel. I'm using my Soundman's wireless microphones to gather sound, which is giving me information. I had my eyes open looking around. There's Mom with a lit birthday cake. She's not even on camera yet, but I knew enough to go get it. I maximized that moment, and his reaction was key. When she came in, he was totally surprised it was real, and that happens because you're omni-aware. In documentary, you got to be omni-aware. You got to just have people that have your back. Your sound person is super key in documentary. They're getting intel, I'm getting intel, and that really works well. So I would say just being open to your environment is very, very clutch. Lastly, on the seeing the world differently, I found myself waiting for an elevator in a hotel once, and it just wasn't coming. I'm the only person on the floor, and like, bing, 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 pushing a button, no elevator. I finally turned around just to look in the mirror, like, am I presentable today, And I noticed a painting that was just like this it was a big painting, and I couldn't even tell what it was. And I'm like, that's the dumbest painting I've ever seen. Like, it's just like, maybe their toes, giant toes, like a bottom of a green dress. It looks like it's made of marble. So I'm like, am I playing a game here? Like, wait a minute. This is the feet of the Statue of Liberty shot extremely close up. I'm like, that is really cool. The photographer brought me into this moment of like, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I'm staring at it. My mind is working. I'm engaging with the art. And finally, I had a moment of realization, like, I love that picture. That's a really neat picture. So the photographer won on that one. And I think I encourage your photographers to look for the world in ways that you can tease your audience and engage them. Don't give it away.
So how would you say you see the future for young people in the business?
It couldn't be a better time to enter our business. Earning a good living is possible. It's more important that you really love what you do. And there are tremendous amounts of opportunity out there. I think the key thing is that the best people coming out are ones that are triple threats or quadruple threats. They can either shoot, edit, produce. You call them predators. They're producers, shooter, editors. Or they are webmasters, or they are design, graphics, and they know computers. They're really combination threats. They go with one application, one resume, and they can do 3 jobs at the facility, and they're going to be played. And it's really important to let your employer know, what do you really want to do? If you really want to be the producer, then let them know that you're going to look for an opportunity to find your role, shadowing a producer one day as an associate producer, that you really start migrating to that aspect of the business. But knowing as many things as possible is clutch, and I do think there's tremendous amounts of opportunities out there for everyone, because between the web, just even like, you're monetizing YouTube for millions of dollars now. You don't even need to leave your house, if you're really, really good. They are lightning in a bottle type of people, but that's a new opportunity people have been doing it for years and are doing really well. Producing content, there's more and more places to sell your content than ever before. You go back to the 1960s and there were like 4 stations, ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. And then it exploded to thousands of places that your content can be seen. So it's never been a better time to be in the content creation business. So being a triple threat or a quadruple threat is clutch to being successful, I think.
That's all really valuable information.
Great, thank you
for joining us today, Darryl.
My pleasure. Thank you, Connor. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, this is all stuff that really helped me, especially just getting into the industry. So thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. Good luck.
Thank you.